And welcome in, everybody, to the Make the Money and Run podcast for Monday, September 27th, 2021. I'm your solo host for this Monday, Vasu Vadaparty. Charlie O on assignment. He'll be back with us on Thursday and Friday. A couple of programming notes before we get into this past unbelievable NFL weekend, unbelievable Major League Baseball. College football has its ups and downs as well, too. But from the wagering side, if you're on the underdog side to start the football year this year, then you're doing very well. We're here Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Mondays at noon East, Mondays at 3 Eastern, Thursdays at noon Eastern, and Fridays we're going to have a special. We've moved our hours from 1 o'clock to 12:30 for the baseball half hour, the Friday baseball show, the Make the Money and Run podcast Friday baseball show. And then at 1 o'clock, we move right into the Friday football show to preview all the college football and NFL football weekends coming up, as well as review the Thursday night games and some Friday night games that are in college. We're on Facebook, YouTube. We're on Twitter now. We're on live Twitter feeds. So feel free to reach out to us. You can check out any of our social media, V-Party Sports on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Instagram. Charlie and I have both Facebook and Instagram pages. Our intern, Nick Robinson, does as well, too. And you can reach me at Twitter at V-Party Sports. Also on Instagram at V-Party Sports. MTMAR Podcast at Gmail is our email address, and you can send us all your questions and comments, who your teams are, what you're thinking about in terms of games. What a weekend it was. We are here, like I said, every Monday, Thursdays, and Fridays. Starting next week, we are going to be going 5 days a week through the baseball season. It's going to be about a 15-minute show, a baseball preview show every day during the playoffs, because that's when most people get interested in it. There's a game every day, with the wild cards coming up next week, with all the manipulations of the 162 games and all the potential 163s or 164s, depending on how the season ends. The wild cards will start next week. The division weekends will start the following weekend. And then you get league championship series in both leagues until we get to the World Series. So every day, 5 days a week, we'll let you know on our social media posts what times they're going to be, but they will be the game. So we can give you picks, we can give you selections, we can give you all the information you need for Major League Baseball. All right, that out of the way. Thanks to everybody on Facebook Live for joining us as well. Let's get to it here. The Major League Baseball, we'll start with Major League Baseball as we'll get to the NFL segment in the back part of the show. But Major League Baseball has 7 days left in the season, 7 days left in the regular season. Can you believe that we've gone through all this, especially with all the COVID protocols, with all these things that we had to go through just to be able to get baseball back on the field? It's unbelievable how it's turned out. Let me give you the updates. There's 3 makeup games going on right now from rainouts last week. The Chicago White Sox, who've already sewn up the American League Central, they are 3 games back of the Houston Astros for the second best record. Both teams are going to play each other in the playoffs. It's just a matter of who gets the extra home game or not in the division series. They have a 6-2 lead. This is a makeup game from last Thursday against the Detroit Tigers. 6-2 White Sox over the Tigers. Matt Manning started, had a rough 4th inning, gave up 6 runs in that inning. Tigers about 2 runs back. Jonathan Scope hit a home run. He's having quite a good year for the Tigers this year. Reds all over the Pirates, 8-1 in the 6th inning. This was also a makeup from last Thursday. A 4-run first, a 4-run 4th. Joey Votto, what a resurgence he's had, 35th home run of the year in the 1st inning to cap a 4-run first. 8-1 Reds over the Pirates. Pirates threatening in the 6th. And then I love watching this guy pitch. He was on my picks. If you saw the social media pages, I love this guy watching him pitch ever since the All-Star break. Cal Quantrill, son of former Major Leaguer Paul Quantrill, for those that are old enough, relief pitcher, Yankees, Blue Jays, various other teams in Major League Baseball. Cal Quantrill and the Indians have a 5-3 lead. They're in the bottom of the 6th inning. This also a makeup game against the Royals, as we said. So those 3 games are going to go off. There's only 2 Major League games tonight. It'll be the Nationals and the Rockies. Nothing really of vested interest there as far as the playoff race goes, other than contract drives, salary drives, I guess they call it. And then a big one in the American League West, the Oakland A's, after a sweep of the Astros this last weekend, clinging on to life, not only in the American League West, but in the American League wildcard, and we'll get to all the machinations of that. They will take on the Seattle Mariners in Seattle. Chris Flexen, who's had a great year, the only multiple-digit game winner for the Mariners so far this year. Flexen, 12-8, will go up against Cole Irvin, who is 8-10. I believe that's his record, 8-10. Flexen, 13-6. Irvin, 10-14, 3.99 ERA. Flexen, 3.56. recovered enough from South Korea last year to have a 2-year contract with the Mariners, and he's pitched well, and he's rewarded the Mariners with the good performance that he's had. So we'll get to the games in a second, but let's start out with Major League Baseball. Let's start in the National League West. What a year it's been in the National League West. The San Francisco Giants, the best record in baseball. The Los Angeles Dodgers, the second best record in baseball. 102-54 for the Giants, whereas nobody thought that they were going to be better than 500 or a little bit better than 500. I thought they were going to be in second place. I thought them and the Padres were going to fight it out. San Diego never even made it to the wild card or any postseason play at all. Everybody in the West eliminated, as you know by now. The Dodgers 2 games back of the Giants at 156. With 6 games to go, the Dodgers beat Arizona 2 out of 3 over the weekend. They lost Saturday night in Arizona. The San Francisco Giants swept Colorado for the second time this year on the road. You know how rare it is to sweep Colorado Rockies at home this year? They do not lose at home. They have the 4th best home record in Major League Baseball. Their road record is what killed them. Otherwise, they would have a better team, and they would be contending a little bit more if they played at that 690 clip that they did at home. 71-84, the Colorado Rockies are 13 games under 500. So you know how hard it is to sweep the Colorado Rockies at home? It hasn't been done all year except for 2 times. You know who did the 2 times? The Giants did them dirty. About a month ago, they did them dirty, swept Colorado in Colorado, a house of horrors over the years for the San Francisco Giants. But not only that, they come back in this series, 3 close games. There were 3 close games, and yesterday's was no different. Brandon Crawford hit a break the game open 3-run home run against the Rockies in the 9th inning, 6-2 the final. They maintained their 2-game lead as the Dodgers won yesterday as well. So the Dodgers take 2 out of 3. What's going to happen in these next 6 games? The Arizona Diamondbacks come in to play the Giants for 3 games starting tomorrow night. Both teams have a day off today. On Tuesday, the San Francisco Giants will host the Diamondbacks. It'll be Logan Webb, their ace. He had a bad start against the Padres last Thursday, but he's going to try and make up for that. 10-3, 3.04 ERA. He's going to go up against Luke Weaver, who's 3-6, 4.38 ERA. That's game 1 of a 3-game series. All 3 games will be at night. And, oh, by the way, San Francisco legend, forever Giant. That's how they market their players in San Francisco, in the area that I live in. Madison Bumgarner, don't you think he wants to, as competitive as he is, don't you think he wants to have a good showing? He is going to go on Thursday, I believe, if the schedule sets it up right. Madison Bumgarner will go Thursday against the Giants. The Diamondbacks are not very good. We know that. They took 1 out of the 3 games, but they're 50-106. They're eliminated. They were eliminated a long time ago, minus 218. Surprisingly, Torey Lovullo got an extension. Everybody thought he was going to be fired. The Diamondbacks manager gets an extension. Good for him. You know what? It's not his fault how bad they played. He had the pieces. They had the players. Injuries killed them. Madison Bumgarner, who knew he was going to have as bad a year as he was to start? He's pitched better since the All-Star break. But for the last 2 years, the Arizona Diamondbacks were not considered relevant. 3 years ago in 2019, 3 seasons ago in 2019, they were right up there challenging for the National League West with the Dodgers and came up just a little bit short. But the last 2 seasons have been lost seasons for the Arizona Diamondbacks. They will come into San Francisco. And don't think the teams are just going to lay over. Teams that are out of it are not going to lay over. One, they're playing for jobs for 2022. Everybody is on tape. It's just like football. Everybody's on tape. Everybody sees how your attitude is when you're losing. It's easy to have a great attitude when you're winning, but it's horrible when you have an attitude for losing. So other teams know that. If you're looking for jobs in Major League Baseball as a player, make sure you put out max effort. Nobody will fault you for effort. You may not have had a very good year, but nobody will fault you for effort. So Arizona will come in and try and spoil the National League West parade for the Giants with these 3 games. San Francisco, a lot of success against Arizona this year. The Dodgers will host the Padres. Early in the year, San Diego swept a 4-game series in Los Angeles. The Dodgers came back and swept them 3 in San Diego. A few weeks ago, they swept San Diego again, both at home and on the road. And so they've dominated the Padres this year in their 19 games. Actually, their 13 games. They'll have the 16 games. They'll have the 3 more coming up this week. For the Dodgers on Tuesday night, they've got their starters back. So Walker Buehler will go tomorrow night against Yu Darvish. He pitched Thursday against the Giants. Padres are able to get that 7-6 win. The to be determined for San Diego on Wednesday, but that'll be Max Scherzer, 15-4, 2.28 ERA against the league, and he's still undefeated against the National League or against teams that he's pitched against since he's become a Dodger. And then on Thursday, to be determined for San Diego, again, Tony Gonsolin back in the rotation. He pitched well on Friday night for LA. He will go with a 4-1 record and a 3.00 ERA. So that's the National League West. The magic number for the San Francisco Giants is 5. There are 6 games left. Both teams are 7-3 in their last 10. The Giants having won 3 straight, the sweep in Colorado. The Dodgers taking 2 out of 3 out of Arizona. They lost the middle game, so they're on a 1-game winning streak. The run differential is unbelievable. The San Francisco Giants keep hitting home runs. 197 home runs to the Dodgers, 247 to the Dodgers, 247 run differential. The Giants at 197 in the run differential. The Giants' home run total is somewhere around 240, breaking near all franchise records. So the Giants and Dodgers going to battle it out. A 2-game lead with Arizona coming into San Francisco and the San Diego Padres going into Los Angeles. Don't you think the TVs will all be set up? They both do not play tonight, so you can enjoy Monday Night Football if you're only interested in those 2 teams. Moving on to the National League East, the only race left in division play, the National League East. The Braves swept San Diego over the weekend in the process of eliminating them not only from NL West contention, which they were a while back, but also from wildcard contention. The wildcard notes coming up in a second. But the Braves swept San Diego, including a 4-3 victory yesterday. Very little known Orlando Arcia, former Brewers shortstop, Twins shortstop, able to get the game-winning hit in the 7th inning off San Diego, stay at 3 up on Philadelphia, who lost yesterday to Pittsburgh 6-0. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Phillies, to the Pirates over the weekend. They won on Friday. They won on Saturday. They had 2 comebacks on Friday and Saturday. I'm doing this all from memory, folks. And then they lost to Pittsburgh yesterday, a debilitating loss. They could have stayed at 2 back. They have a big series on Tuesday night in Atlanta, the Braves and Phillies. They'll be 3 up. They're both off as well today, too. As I said, there's only 2 games in Major League Baseball, anything in playoff contention, the A's and Mariners, and then the National League, the Rockies and the Nationals go tonight in Denver. Nothing of playoff consequence there. The A's trying to hang on in the American League West as well. But the Braves and Phillies will open a 3-game series. Philadelphia 3 games out. A sweep will give them the opportunity to tie Atlanta and possibly go into the weekend even. A 2 out of 3 by Philadelphia will bring them back to 2 with 3 games left. The magic number for Atlanta is 5. So if Atlanta sweeps Philadelphia, the division race is over. Philadelphia barely hanging on in the wild card race. All right, Atlanta, Philadelphia, that's the only race left in the National League East. Let's hit the National League wild card slate as we talk to you on the Make the Money and Run podcast. Vasu Vada Party here, Monday, September 27th, 2021. We're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. We're going to start doing baseball shows during the playoffs 5 days a week. We'll make sure you have all your selections ahead of time. Don't forget to check out our social media posts. We'll have our picks every day during the week by 6 o'clock Eastern as well, too. Charlie O and intern Nick Robinson. All right, the National League wild card. How about those St. Louis Cardinals? Are you kidding me? You know how hard it is in professional sports to win this many games in a row? The Cardinals are birds, but they're acting like cats because they've got a lot of lives left over in the St. Louis Cardinals clubhouse and dugout. Yesterday, 2 out of the 3 games they were down. 3 out of the 4 games they were down in this weekend against the Cubs, but they managed to come back and win in all those games. And that culminates into a 16-game winning streak. 16 games. The only thing that I can remember this close was the Oakland A's winning 20 in a row back during the during the Moneyball years in 2001. St. Louis Cardinals, 16-game winning streak. They completed the sweep against the Cubs over the weekend, coming back down 2-1 in the 8th inning. They got a Bader home run. They got a ground out that scored another run, and then they were able to add on another run in the 9th. The magic number for wild card success for the second wild card, they're not going to catch the first wild card. That's either going to be the Dodgers or the Giants, and that lead is 15.5 games. So for the second wild card, the magic number for both the Reds and Phillies to be eliminated is 1. They don't play today, but I guarantee they're going to win one more game between now and Sunday. Heck, they're on a 16-game winning streak, more lives than a cat, actually even more lives than a cat has at 9 lives. 16-game winning streak for the St. Louis Cardinals. Mike Schilt has done an outstanding job. They were nowhere to be found around the All-Star break, and then they got hot in the second half. Paul Goldschmidt, if you have a second-half MVP going, Paul Goldschmidt is your second-half MVP. What a run he's been on. Nolan Arenado has been great for the Cardinals as well, too. He was great with the Rockies, but he was great with the Cardinals. He's 4th or 5th in the league in RBIs right now, and his glove Nobody better at third base than Nolan Arenado in St. Louis, and I think the people of St. Louis have really appreciated him this year because they get to see him on an everyday basis. The Phillies, who lost yesterday, their magic number is 1. They still have a chance in the NL East. The Reds, magic number is 1. They are winning, as we said. They're winning 8-1 over the Pittsburgh Pirates. 8-1 Pittsburgh Pirates, bottom of the 6th inning in Cincinnati. But St. Louis, all they have to do is win one game. They will host the Milwaukee Brewers, who are the NL Central champs. They clinched over the weekend over the Mets, who had a terrible run toward the end. In fact, this is how good the Cardinals been. You know, in the newspapers, they talk about the last 10. Well, I'm going to give you the last 10 wins for the Cardinals and the competition in the wild card. The Cardinals obviously 10-0 in a 16-game winning streak. But in the last 10 games, they picked up Cincinnati 4 games. Cincinnati was 6-4. They picked up 3 games on the Philadelphia Phillies, who went 7-3, trying to stay in the National League East. They picked up 8 games on the San Diego Padres, who went 2-8 in their last 10, and the Mets, who went 1-9 in their last 10, a 5-game losing streak, just got out of Milwaukee with their legs between their tails between their legs, 1-9 in their last 10. So they picked up 4, 3 is 7. They picked up 8. That's 15. They have picked up a combined 19 games over the last 10-game stretch. I do that right. 4, 3 is 7, and 8 is 15. 23. I don't know where I got 19. But anyway, the fact is that combined, they picked up nearly somewhere between 15 and 20 games over the 4 teams with this 16-game winning streak. They will be the second wild card. And if I'm the Giants and Dodgers, I make sure I keep an eye out for them because that division race in the NL West is going to be huge. I think the Cardinals might lose before the end of the week, but who knows? But can you imagine ending the season on a 22-game winning streak, going into a wild card game with all the pressure of the winning streak and going in for a 1-game elimination? They say it in football, they say it in basketball. It might be good to lose so that you kind of get that out of the way and take the pressure off it because that's going to be a big number and a big streak for the St. Louis Cardinals to get in there. All right, when we come back, we're going to get to the American League. The American League standings, the American League division races are all over right now. But the wild card, we've got so much to talk about the wild card in terms of 5 teams that are still there for 2 spots in the American League. The only race left over is the Houston Astros in the American League West. When we come back in 30 seconds, we'll talk American League baseball, American League wild cards, and we'll give you a scenario on how 5 teams could all end up tied at 90 and 72 after the regular season ends on Sunday. We're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. If you missed the live show, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube Live. You can download, subscribe anywhere you get your podcast, Facebook, iHeart, Google, SoundCloud, and Spotify, generally the best ones to get to, but you can find it anywhere you see that logo in the corner, the Make the Money and Run logo up there in the right-hand corner of your screen if you're viewing us on any of the platforms. All right, back in 30 seconds with the American League. I'm Vasi Vadaparty, your solo host. We'll see you in 30. Vasi Vadaparty here with the Make the Money and Run podcast, the Monday edition. What a weekend it was in sports. We're reviewing all the baseball that went on in the National League. St. Louis Cardinals continue their magical ways, 16-game winning streak. Their magic number to eliminate both the Phillies and Reds is 1. They are off tonight. They will host the Milwaukee Brewers tomorrow. The Giants and Dodgers, the only race left in the National League. Well, actually, the National League East as well, too, but the big race in the National League West, not only for best record in all of baseball, but also the number 1 seed in the National League. And the second best record will be either the Giants or Dodgers, and they will have the wild card spot, and they will host, in all likelihood, the St. Louis Cardinals next Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on how the season ends. By the way, just to remind everybody, even though both teams are in the playoffs, they changed the rule since they added the second wild card in 2012. If the Giants and Dodgers end up in a tie, they will play game 163 on Monday afternoon in San Francisco at Oracle Park. It'll be the Giants and Dodgers. If the Phillies and Braves end up in a tie, I'm not sure who has the season series lead in that series. I believe Atlanta does, but there's still 3 more games this week between Philadelphia and Atlanta. We'll have that series wrapped up on Thursday when we come back at noon Eastern on Thursday afternoon for the Make the Money and Run podcast. Charlie O and I'll be there for that. So they will also play game 163. All right, let's move to the American League. The American League West, the only race left. Houston 5 up on Seattle. Seattle 2 out of 3 over the Angels over the weekend. The Oakland A's, they are 6 back, and it was a lot worse, but they swept the Houston Astros, so they're still in it. The magic number for the Houston Astros to clinch the American League West is 2 over Seattle and 1 over Oakland. So if Oakland loses tonight to Seattle, which I think they might because they've lost 8 straight to Seattle right now, their division hopes will be up, and their magic number will be knocked down in the wild card to 3. So the Astros are up. The Astros are up 5 games in the American League over Seattle. Seattle's been on a run. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They picked up 3 games in the last 10 as the Astros have lost 4 in a row. They're 5-5 overall in their last 10. The A's 6-4. They were only able to pick up a game on the Astros in that scenario. They lost 2 back to the Mariners. They had a series against the Mariners last week. The A's have won 3 in a row. The Astros have lost 4 in a row. And Seattle, after the Saturday loss, came back with a big win. Mitch Haniger had a big hit for the Mariners yesterday against the Angels, the Bay Area product, able to put together a comeback player of the year, definitely in his future for the Seattle Mariners, who have stayed in it all year, much to the surprise of Charlie O, and maybe a little bit to me too, because I didn't think their starting pitching was strong enough, but that bullpen has been lights out, and Kyle Seager's had a great year. Mitch Haniger, we just mentioned, has had a great year. Their young kids have come up. Logan Gilbert has pitched well as a rookie. He's an ace as well, too, so he's up there as well. And there, Marco Gonzalez pitched great yesterday against Ohtani, only giving up the 1 run. So Houston 5 up on Seattle. It looks like they're going to win the division. The magic number we said is 2 for Houston. The 6 games left in the season for all 3 teams. All the teams are off today in the American League West except for the A's and Mariners. They open a 3-game series in Seattle. A huge series for the A's. They have to sweep in order for them to stay in there. The Mariners trying to stay in that wild card race, as well as the Houston Astros probably will win 2 games this week. In fact, where's Houston tomorrow? The A's Mariners play the 3 this week, and the Astros have the Tampa Bay Rays. So that's a big series as well, too. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, the Tampa Bay Rays are 97-59. Houston is 91-65. That is 6 games left. The magic number for the Rays to get the best record in the American League, they already clinched their division a while back. Last week they did. The magic number for the Rays and Houston is 1. So if Tampa Bay wins tonight, they will clinch the best record in the American League. So that's the only other race left in the American League. All right, let's move on to the wild card. What a scenario on the wild card we got going on. The wild card still with 5 teams left, battling it out for 2 spots. The Yankees and Red Sox played over the weekend. The Yankees had a big weekend from Giancarlo Stanton. Are you kidding me? 3 home runs in 3 games, a 3-run home run Saturday, a come-from-behind grand slam on Saturday afternoon, Friday night, the 3-run home run and a blowout, 8-3 over the Red Sox. A come-from-behind grand slam on Saturday, and then a 2-run home run with the Yankees already up 4-3 in the 8th inning to sweep the Red Sox and overtake them by 1 game. They are 1 game ahead of the Red Sox, who hold the 2nd spot, 1 game in the loss column, 1 game overall. Boston will go to Baltimore. Toronto is in 3rd. They are 1 game back of Boston. They are going to New York. They are 2 games back of New York, so they could easily go back into first place if they sweep the Yankees over these next 3 games. They will host the Yankees in Rogers Center this week. In fact, let's get the pitching matchups for you today. The Yankees will have Jameson Taillon tomorrow in Toronto against Hyun-Jin Ryu, who's had a pretty good year but struggled the last few weeks. On Wednesday, also a night game, they will have Garrett Cole going up against Jose Barrios. That's a big one as well. Barrios lost in his start against Minnesota. Probably a little bit of nerves there. That was the team that traded him. And on Thursday, the Yankees and Blue Jays will close out with Corey Kluber and Robbie Ray, who's had an outstanding year for Toronto, 13-6, 2.68. Wednesday and Tuesday for the Red Sox and Orioles, Chris Sale against Bruce Zimmerman. Tomorrow on Wednesday, it'll be Nathan Eovaldi, who had a bad start against the Yankees on Friday against Lowther. That is Zach Lowther, the left-hander for the Baltimore Orioles. And on Thursday, to be determined for the Red Sox against Alexander Wells, 1-3, a 7.5 ERA. So that's what's going on with the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees. The Toronto Blue Jays, like we said, they'll host New York. So those three teams have their series in front of them to know what's going on wild card wise. And then the Oakland A's and Seattle Mariners will play each other. They're in the 4th and 5th spot. Toronto 2 up on Seattle, 3 up on Oakland. The magic number for Boston over Toronto is 6, Seattle 5, and Oakland 4. The magic number for Seattle and Oakland will go down as they play each other today. All right, one scenario that I wanted to show you, and I want to give credit. I don't have the person's name. I will put that on the post at 6 o'clock Eastern when I give you the updates and the any picks that Charlie O and Nick Robinson, our intern, have. I'll do that at 6 Eastern. But I wanted to give you an update. I'll give you the credit to who it is at 6 o'clock Eastern when I see it. I'll make sure we put it up on post. If the Major League Baseball regular season ends and all 5 wildcard teams end in a tie, the records will be 90 and 72. That's the only way this can happen, according to the science of it. So 5-way tie after 162 games will happen if New York goes 1-5, 1 win against Toronto. Boston goes 2-4. Toronto goes 3-3, but has to have 2 of those wins against New York. Seattle has to go 4-2 the rest of the week, with 1 of those wins only against Oakland. They play the Angels after this series back in Seattle. And then Oakland has to go 5-1, 2 wins that have to be against Seattle. All would finish at a 90 and 72 record. The tiebreakers would go into effect. The computers would explode. Everything will happen in regards to that. They would have to play 5 groups, A, B, C, and D. Somebody will get an advantage. Somebody will get an advantage in B, Group A, and then B and C and D and E will play each other, and then they'll figure out how to play that scenario if it ends up in a 5-way tie. It likely won't, but I did notice this, and for all those baseball fans, and after the last couple of years we've had in Major League Baseball, wouldn't it be interesting to have a 5-way tie at the end of Sunday, and everybody's head would just explode? By the way, on Sunday, and we'll make sure we mention this, on Sunday, all Major League Baseball games will start at 3 o'clock Eastern. Every single game will be at 3 o'clock Eastern. Major League Baseball adopted this format about 7 or 8 years ago, kind of like a soccer status, so nobody's jaking it. Everybody can see how everybody doesn't worry about scoreboard watching or playing their guys, not playing their guys, based on what's already happening before them. Every game starts at 3 o'clock Eastern, and every game starts at 3 o'clock Eastern, no matter where you live. So 3, 2, 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and 12 o'clock in your time zones for all games on Sunday. It'll be right in the middle of football day. I know. I thought they should have started, honestly. They should have done it in prime time. Every game goes off in prime time. That way you're going up only against one NFL game. But Major League Baseball set it at 3 o'clock Eastern, probably for travel purposes or whatever the case is. So that's the scenario for the American League West. A 5-way tie, the wild card, 5 teams still in it. Yankees ahead of Boston by 1, ahead of Toronto by 2, ahead of Seattle by 3, and ahead of Oakland by 4. Boston has the second wild card spot, 1 game back of the Yankees for the first spot, 1 game ahead of Toronto for the second spot, 2 ahead of Seattle, and 3 ahead of Oakland. Magic number, as we said, 6, 5, and 4 for Toronto, Seattle, and Oakland. We just detailed out the next 6 games. Again, nobody's playing today except for the A's and the Mariners. They are playing tonight in Seattle. Chris Flexen against Cole Irvin. All right, that's going to do it for baseball for Monday. Today, the Make the Money and Run podcast. We'll have our picks for you at the end. I'll have my picks for you at the end. Actually, Charlie and Nick just texted me, so I'll try and get those picks on as well. But when we come back, what a weekend in college football. What a weekend in the NFL. If you're you're making money this year for the first 2 weeks. Yet to go with Monday Night Football tonight to close out week 3. But through the first 3 weeks, the underdogs have ruled. All right, back in 30 seconds, the Make the Money and Run podcast with a complete rundown of the NFL and NCAA football. I'm Vasi Vadaparty. Thanks for joining us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And if you missed any of the live broadcasts, please feel free to download anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Google, iHeart, Spotify, SoundCloud are the best places to go. Back in 30 seconds with all the football wrap-up from the weekend and a preview of Monday Night Football between the Cowboys and the Eagles. Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast. Vasu Vadaparty, your solo host here for the Monday edition of the show. We're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and now brand new live on Twitter. Thanks to everybody for joining us on the live shows. If you miss any of the live broadcasts, you can download it on Apple, Google, iHeart, Spotify, SoundCloud. The best ways to get it: download, subscribe, rate, and review. You can catch us every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, as I said. And also every day we have an updating segment on social media. You can get us on Twitter, VParty Sports, VParty Sports on Instagram, MTMAR Podcast also on Facebook and Twitter. MTMAR Podcast at gmail.com is our email address. Let us know who your teams are. Let us know how exciting this is for you for baseball with the NFL starting. If you're doing well, share the wealth. Let everybody know what's going on because we all go through streaks. Yesterday was a good streak for me. I did not start out that way because who wants a bragger? But yesterday, and you should be following us right now, yesterday and Saturday were very good days in our Selection Saturday, Selection Sunday segment. Yesterday, 6-1 in the NFL. The only loss coming on the 49ers last night, the Buffalo Bills. And if you saw the picks at noon Eastern yesterday, an hour before the game's off, if you saw the selections that I had yesterday, you would have been a winner. The Selection Sunday went this way. The Cincinnati Bengals +3, the LA Chargers +7, two outright winners as an underdog. And then the Buffalo Bills -7 over the Washington football team. They blew them out 43-21 as well. So that's 3-0. Then the afternoon, the Denver Broncos all over the Jets. They're 3-0. We'll get to all the game details in a second. But the Denver Broncos I had in the afternoon, -10.5. They cover easily, shut out the Jets 26-0. The Los Angeles Rams are 3-0, and they play really good defense, and they're better than Tampa Bay. I don't have the futures odds. We'll have those on Thursday going into Thursday Night Football, which will be a good game, by the way. Cincinnati Bengals, who are 2-1, we just talked about them and their upset win over Pittsburgh. They are going to play the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last year's number one draft pick, Joe Burrow at Cincinnati at quarterback, and this year's number one draft pick, Trevor Lawrence, for the Jacksonville Jaguars as well. The Jaguars are 0-3, I believe. Yeah, they're 0-3, and the Cincinnati Bengals are 2-1. But we'll preview that on Thursday. When Thursday rolls around, we've got Monday Night Football tonight. Monday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys are hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. 3.5 the line for Dallas, 51.5. All right, look, here's my take. Philadelphia Eagles could easily be 2-0. They had a tough game against the 49ers. It was an alley fight. The local announcers in Philadelphia, local announcers here in the Bay Area where I live, said it was an alley fight. 17-11, the Eagles came through. Bad play calling somewhere near the end of the first half by the Eagles and Nick Sirianni. They tried a Philly special. None of the guys that were there on that team in the Super Bowl 3 years ago were there for this game. Even that play was illegal. I still maintain 5 men in the backfield on that Philly special, but that not sour grapes or anything. I did have Philly in that game in the Super Bowl. But anyway, the point being that Philadelphia has played well this year. They beat up on Atlanta. We know Atlanta's not very good. Atlanta did get a win yesterday. They beat up on Atlanta. They played the 49ers very tough. This Dallas defense, especially the secondary, is not very good. Jalen Hurts can throw the ball. He's proven to be an effective quarterback. They've got a pretty good running game there in Philadelphia. Their defensive front four has been really good. The Cowboys' offensive line has been banged up. They're not running the ball. I don't know what's up with Zeke Elliott. He's not running the ball. Dak Prescott looks like he's close to, if not 100%, from his injury from last year. He's thrown the ball all over the field with great success. They're 1-1. The defense played well against the Chargers last week. They did come out with a victory against the Chargers last week as a 3-point underdog in Los Angeles. Puts the Chargers at that time at 1-1. Of course, we know what the Chargers did yesterday in Kansas City with a lot of help from the Chiefs and the turnovers. But anyway, Dallas, 3.5-point favorite. A lot of that probably Dallas money coming in. Probably brought the line up from 2.5 or 3 to where it is at 3.5. Neither team has played great defense. Certainly in Dallas's case, it's been very poor defense, especially in the secondary. And I think Philadelphia can score on them. The over-under 51.5 might be a little high. They did get 32 points against Atlanta. They only got 7. They only got 11 against the 49ers last week. But they can score on this team. Like I said, they can run the ball. They've got talented wide receivers. And Jalen Hurts has proven to be a very capable quarterback in year 2 in this Philadelphia system. Nick Sirianni, the new coach, they've developed him a lot better than the previous coaching staff did last year. And we'll let it go on the pandemic for last year. It was a tough time to train anybody last year. But this year, the Philadelphia Eagles look good. They're 1-1. The Cowboys are 1-1, a big NFC East early showdown matchup. The football team is 0-2, and the Giants are 1-2, and the 0-3, and the New York Giants are 0-3 as well, too. All right, Dallas, Philadelphia. Dallas 3.5, 51.5. Let's start out yesterday in the NFC East. The NFC East, the New York Giants lose the lead and lose the game to Atlanta on a coup field goal at the end. They did have the lead going into the fourth quarter, but Atlanta came back behind Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan, 37 years old, able to get the touchdown. They tied the game up at 14, including the 2-point conversion. And then the Giants could not move the ball. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, they're not handing the ball off enough to Saquon Barkley. He looks healthy. He looks ready to go. He scored one of the 2 touchdowns for the Giants yesterday. Giants lose the lead and lose the game 17-14. And then the football team is 0-3. They got drilled by Buffalo. They've given up 82 points in their first 3 games this year, and that's not very good. The only game that they played any defense was when they had the lead late against the Chargers, but Justin Herbert moved down the field, and they lost that game late as well, too. Thanks to everybody on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube as well, too. Justin on Twitter. We'll get to the NFC West in a second, Justin. Promise you that, but we're leading in from Philadelphia and Dallas into the NFC East right now in Vassy Vata Party. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast for Monday, September 27, 2021. What a weekend in the NFL. Let's move to the NFC South. How about those New Orleans Saints? They look terrible against Carolina, who Carolina might be the real thing, so it may not be that bad of a loss to the Carolina Panthers on the road. They pound Green Bay in week 1. They pound New England in week 3. Alvin Kamara had a big game. Defense played well. Mac Jones had 4 interceptions, 28-13. The win for New Orleans. They are 2-1 in the NFC South. And why are they 2-1 in the NFC South? Well, the Carolina win and the New Orleans beat Green Bay and then beat New England up yesterday. Carolina is 3-0. They got their win on Thursday night after dominating Houston 24-9. McCaffrey out in that game. He's going to miss about 3 or 4 weeks. But Sam Darnold playing well. I love Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold's going to be a good quarterback for them. And now hopefully he can hold the fort down with their talented wide receivers they have and their good special teams unit. Their field goal kicking is outstanding. They won the other night on Thursday night. They are 3-0 in the National Football League in the NFC South leading. They are one of 2, 3, 4, 5. They are one of 6 teams in the NFL that are still undefeated at 3-0 after their Thursday night win. And Tampa Bay got beat up by the Rams yesterday. Tampa Bay defense has not played well this year. Tom Brady got hit up a lot. That defense, Aaron Donald, the best defensive player in the NFL, they went after him. They ended up building up a big lead. Tampa Bay could not overcome it. Their injuries mounted up as well, too, in the secondary. Jamal Dean had to go out. Mike Edwards had to replace him. I think he went out as well, too. They were down to third-string cornerbacks and second-string safeties, and that's not good for Matthew Stafford, who's obviously found a rejuvenated career in Los Angeles. Sean McVay has done some things differently for them to be able to maintain where they are. They're 3-0, and if I had to choose them at 3-0 or Arizona at 3-0 right now, I think I would take the Rams at 3-0 by far and away over Arizona. I don't know when they play. We'll get that schedule up on Thursday when we come back, but I believe they play sometime in the next couple of weeks. It's a division week, and it might be next weekend, in fact, that they play Arizona because San Francisco is playing Seattle. The NFC South looks like this: Carolina 3-0. Tampa Bay with that loss yesterday. The return of Tom Brady to New England. I'm sure you've heard about it. He played. I'm sure you've heard of him. I'm sure you knew already. He played in New England for a number of years, won some trophies, et cetera, et cetera. Really nondescript career in New England for Tom Brady. I can't imagine what the hype machine is going to be. Oh, and NBC also has the game on Sunday night too. So I can't imagine what kind of press coverage that's going to be all week. Tom Brady returning back to New England, New England's shell of themselves. We'll get to them when we hit the AFC. But the NFC South right now, the Carolina Panthers looking down on everybody. Tampa Bay and New Orleans at 2-1. Atlanta at 1-2 after their win over the New York Giants yesterday, are 1-2. All right, we move on to the NFC North. I got to shake my head. This is the part where I shake my head. By the way, if you get a chance to go down the YouTube hole and check out ESPN's Dan Orlovsky, what a beatdown he put on Matt Nagy today about Justin Fields and lack of game plan preparation and lack of protection. Everything that Dan Orlovsky, a former quarterback in the NFL for 14 years, knows the game, does really, really good analysis on ESPN, said everything that everybody has to say about Matt Nagy, and I just don't understand how that happened. And now he's not sure who the quarterback's going to be for their next game this weekend when they play. But Mason Crosby, the big story last night, the Green Bay Packers upset the 49ers 30-28. The 49ers, everybody's going to blame Garoppolo. I'm telling you, it's not Garoppolo, 24-9. He did make bad decisions, but every quarterback will make bad decisions. That's just part of the nature of the game. He's not Aaron Rodgers. We saw what Aaron Rodgers did with 37 seconds and no timeouts. You know how hard that is to go down the field? 37 seconds and no timeouts. It's a byproduct of the 49ers and their secondary not being healthy at all. The 49ers secondary not healthy. They got no pass rush against a second-rate offensive line by Green Bay. Their second-rate offensive line, it's all documented. Check out Pro Football Focus. But they looked like all pros last night. And the reason was all the plays were being thrown. The passing plays were under 2.5 seconds for Aaron Rodgers. I don't know the percentage was, but I'll estimate 75% to 80% of the time Aaron Rodgers got that ball out under 2.5 seconds. Green Bay with the upset win. They were a 3-point underdog. Almost took Green Bay. Almost changed my mind in the afternoon yesterday, but I stuck with the Niners because I thought defensively, their first game back at home, but they came out and laid an egg in the first half, down 17-0. Green Bay didn't do anything really spectacular in that first half. They just methodically moved the ball down the field, ended up with that 17-0 lead. Trey Lance got their first touchdown at the half to make it 17-7. You thought momentum was coming back, but the ball being back to the 49ers to open the second half. They did make it 17-14, but then the secondary, they just couldn't get the pass rush, and the secondary, as depleted as it was, showed up yesterday, and Aaron Rodgers being paid for it. Aaron Rodgers, a Hall of Fame quarterback, by the way, and I don't think anybody doubts that at all. 24-14 the lead. 49ers able to come back with those 2 touchdowns. People blaming Kyle Shanahan for not taking too much time. Like they're going to assume that they can score. If you let that time run down and all of a sudden they don't have enough time and they get stopped at the 1-yard line, then everybody's going to scream on the other side. I can't believe you waited till the end to score the touchdown, Kyle Shanahan. What's wrong with you? Well, he had no timeouts. Green Bay had no timeouts. You know what the odds are on going down the field with no timeouts? Granted, the 49ers secondary did not play well at all, and they got burned. Devontae Adams, Bay Area kid, obviously had a great game. There's no doubt about it. But Green Bay gets the win. The Bears' offense in disarray. The Bears allowed 8 sacks. I think 8 or 9 sacks. Myles Garrett had 5 of them, 4.5, I think, if you still get a half a sack. Jadeveon Clowney on the other end got to him. The Allen Robinson had the only good game. Pat O'Donnell, the punter, probably was the best player on the field for them. The defense played okay. Cleveland's offense is pretty good. They've got a good running game with Chubb and Hunt, but when you're on the field, as long as they were yesterday, it's going to be tough to get anything going, and they just could not get anything going with Justin Fields. This is how hard it is for rookies to play in the NFL. That's why you 49ers fans got to lay off Trey Lance a little bit. He's not ready. He won't be ready because his decision-making is not there yet. Take it from me. Don't take it from me. Take it from me, whatever you want, but listen to the experts on that. All right. And then the Detroit Lions, you can't forget about this. Boy, talk about bad luck. If you didn't have bad luck, you wouldn't have any luck. They had the lead late in the game after being down 10-0. Baltimore just played terribly. They played horribly. Turnovers, Lamar Jackson missing his receivers. They couldn't run the ball. Duvernay dropped a couple of passes as well, too. This game should have been probably a Baltimore blowout. But you're Detroit, and you're the Detroit Lions, and you're Dan Campbell, and you should have bitten Justin Tucker's knee before he got on the field. Justin Tucker, the best kicker in the NFL, the best kicker in the last decade in the NFL, a 66-yard game-winning field goal to win the game 19-17 for the Baltimore Ravens to put them at 2-1. 66-yard field goal hit the top of the crossbar, went straight up in the air, and came down behind it. That counts. That's good. That's a win for Baltimore. And Detroit, you're 0-3. Looking up at the rest of the division, I like the way you played defense yesterday. I like the way you shut down Baltimore, and I like the way your offensive output. You're going to get better, and you're going to get some wins. And in that division, you can beat anybody. I know you had a tough game against Green Bay, but the 49ers game showed that you can move the ball. And then yesterday's game showed that your defense can come up and play against some of the better quarterbacks. So Detroit, don't hang your head yet, but that was a tough way to lose. Tough way to lose, a 66-yard field goal to win the game. Wow, what a game that was, though, for Detroit. All right, we move on to the NFC West. We already talked about the 49ers. They lose on the game-winning field goal by Mason Crosby, 30-28, after coming back from 17-0 down to take a 1-point lead late. Aaron Rodgers drives it down. We all know that. Seattle's defense, big question mark in the NFC. They are 1-2. Looking up at the rest of the division, the San Francisco 49ers are 2-1. The Cardinals and the Rams are both 3-0. The Rams win big over Tampa Bay. Everybody knows about that game. Matthew Stafford looks great. Cooper Kupp looked good. The Buccaneers secondary looked terrible. They've given up a lot of points this year in their 2-1 record. They're going to go play New England next week, but the Rams are on fire right now. They've scored 95 points. They've only given up 62 points in 3 games, 34-24 win over Tampa Bay. Arizona down to Jacksonville. In fact, I don't know what Cliff Kingsbury's thinking. Some of his decision-making is really, really poor. Cliff Kingsbury, he may not last very long, and I know people were talking about it, but they're 3-0 by hook and crook. Who tries a 68? I know Justin Tucker made a 66-yard field goal, but Matt Prater at the end of the half tried a 68-yard field goal. J.J. Agnew, who's a Hall of Fame kick returner potential, right on the level of Devin Hester. He returned it 109 yards on the missed field goal. It ended up short. Agnew had it, and I cannot believe that the Cardinals didn't think that he would have run it back when they saw him back there underneath the goalpost. 109 yards. He runs it back at the half, gives Jacksonville the lead. Of course, they lose it in the second half. 31-19, Arizona comes back and covers. So they are there with that. The Rams covered, the 49ers did not, and the Seahawks were a 2-point favorite. So 1-3 in terms of point spreads in the NFC West. All right, we move on to the AFC. Let's get to the AFC West. The best game of the day, the Los Angeles Chargers, my favorite play of the day. Chargers 2-1, beat Kansas City on the road. They got a lot of help from the Chiefs, 4 turnovers. The Chiefs are now 1-2. The first 2 losses in Patrick Mahomes' career last week and this week in September. The first interceptions he's thrown in his career in September. 3 interceptions in the month of September. 1 last week to Baltimore, 2 this week to the Chargers, including the game-winning touchdown after his second interception. The Raiders in overtime beat Miami. They're 3-0. Little hook and crook for the Raiders there, but they get the win 31-28 in overtime. And Denver, we talked about Denver blowing out the Jets. Denver with a great running game. Their defense is really good, and it's going to be an interesting matchup when the Raiders and Denver play. Rivalry from times past, going to play up against each other probably in the next couple of weeks. Don't have the schedule in front of me, but we'll try and find it in the next few weeks. I do have this, but I'll make sure I have it all ready for the next time we go. Make the Money and Run podcast, Vasu Vada Party here. Charlie O on assignment. We're going to wrap up the AFC here, the AFC North. How about those Cincinnati Bengals? Joe Burrow looking like he's the real deal. Joe Mixon running the ball again. Jamar Chase can catch the ball for those that think he can't. LSU made note of that last week as well, too. Talked about the Ravens win. Justin Tucker, 66-yard field goal to beat the Detroit Lions. Cleveland had 8 sacks over the Chicago Bears. Pittsburgh Steelers 1-2. They're not healthy. Their offensive line is poor, and their defense is giving up yards by the chunks right now, and we'll see what Pittsburgh does next week. In the AFC South, probably the worst division in the AFC right now, but the Titans, somebody's got to win it. The Titans beat up on the Colts 25-16. Tannehill had an okay game. Julio Jones is added to that offense. A.J. Brown went out with an injury. Jacksonville loses but gets the Agnew 108-yard field goal miss, return for a touchdown. And then, of course, Houston last night on Thursday night beat up by Carolina. They lose. They are 0-3. Houston now in the AFC South. Houston is 1-2. Indianapolis 0-3. Jacksonville 0-3. Tennessee 2-1. Somebody's going to win that division by default. The AFC East, New England loses. They're 1-2. They got beat up by the Saints. We talked about the Jets getting blanked by Denver. There's really no rhyme or reason right now going on for Robert Saleh. He might be wondering why he's taking that job. They're 0-3. But Buffalo, the class of the division, after the opening week loss to Pittsburgh, who goes undefeated anyway? 43-21, Buffalo wins over Washington. And then Miami loses to Las Vegas. Miami at 1-2, Buffalo 2-1. The Patriots are 1-2, and the Jets are 0-3. All right, that's going to do it for the NFL. We're going to have a quick break here, come back with college football, talk about the top 25 teams, some of the underdog specials that happened over the weekend, and then I'll give you my picks at the end. Vasu Vada Party for the Make the Money and Run podcast 3 times a week on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. If you miss any of it, you can download and subscribe. Please do. Pass it along to everybody. Rate and review. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Back in 30 seconds with the final segment for the Make the Money and Run podcast for Monday. Welcome back to the final segment of the Make the Money and Run podcast for Monday, September 27th. Vasu Vadaparty, your solo host. Baseball taking place right now. The Indians have an 8-3 lead over the Royals in the top of the ninth inning. The Reds all over the Pirates, 13-1, delaying the inevitable of being eliminated from the wild card race. The White Sox have an 8-2 lead over the Tigers. They're trying to catch Houston for the second best record in baseball. Houston's still a little bit of a shot, magic number one for Tampa Bay to clinch the best record in the American League. White Sox up 8-2 in the top of the eighth inning. So it looks like I'm going to go 1-2 in my morning picks, but we'll make it up tonight with the football. By the way, I wanted to go back on the NFL here real quick, just so people understand what's going on in the point spread scenarios. The underdogs are the ones that are on the front of the statistics. Week 1, underdogs either won or covered 12 out of the 16 games from week 1. So 12-4. Week 2 got a little bit more even, 9-7. And week 3 going into tonight, 9-6, the underdogs. So that's 13. That's a pretty good percentage for underdog plays going into week 3 tonight. We'll see if the Dallas Cowboys can cover tonight or the Eagles can make it 10-6 in terms of week 3. But 30-17 going into the final game for week 3. Let's move on to college football here a little bit. The ACC, how about Clemson? Not nearly as good as they were. The first time being out of the top 10 in a few years. They get upset by North Carolina State. Boston College is pretty good in the ACC. They're not going to compete with Clemson or some of these other teams. North Carolina State got Clemson. Boston College got Missouri 41-34 in overtime. And North Carolina got upset. Second ACC loss this year, so they may be on a down year. Georgia Tech beat them up 45-22. And what is going on in Tallahassee? Florida State goes 0-4 after their loss to Louisville. TCU gets upset at home by SMU, 42-34 in the Big 12. Texas coming off a slow game last week, drops 70 on Texas Tech. Baylor upsets Iowa State. I really had high hopes for Iowa State, but now 2 losses this year. One to in-state rival Iowa, who's really good, by the way, and one conference loss now, 31-29. Oklahoma State beat Kansas State 31-20. Thought Kansas State would show up a little bit. 2 straight wins over 2 quality teams for the Cowboys right now. And Oklahoma, they're winning. They're number 4 in the country. They're barely beating teams. They barely beat Nebraska last week. They barely beat West Virginia on Saturday, 16-13. I had West Virginia plus 17.5. Too many points for Oklahoma right now until they get their offense going. In the Pac-12, stunners in the Pac-12, on the Big Ten, I'm sorry. Stunners in the Big Ten. Wisconsin upset by Notre Dame. Jack Cohen, the former Wisconsin quarterback, having himself a day. 41-13. Played that game at Soldier Field. Wisconsin could not do anything right in that game. 41-13. Minnesota was a 30-point favorite over Bowling Green. They lose outright 14-10. Iowa looked kind of shaky against Colorado State, 24-14. Purdue's offense did not show up. Illinois had a chance. They were really bad their last 2 weeks after the upset win over Nebraska. 13-9, Purdue gets the win. They continue their streak of wins. Michigan over Rutgers, 20-13. They were a 20.5-point favorite. Rutgers is pretty good. They're 3-1. We talked about them the first 2 weeks of college football. And Ohio State routs Akron 59-7 a week after having all the turmoil that they've had in the locker rooms and on the university campus as well too. They had to let their linebacker go over some incident that happened in between the third and fourth quarter. In the Pac-12, UCLA runs over Stanford. That loss to Fresno State motivated them. They cover -4. They run all over Stanford 35-24 on the farm. Washington beats Cal 31-24. Cal covers by a half a point, 7.5-point spread or 8-point spread, depending on where you had it. But the University of Washington, a little bit back on track, a little disappointing season for Jimmy Lake so far, but they get a conference win. Oregon cruises to a 41-19 win over Arizona. They do not cover the 28.5. Arizona able to put up 19 points, but Oregon looks really good, and that North Division may be over before it starts. How about Oregon State upsetting USC? USC came back with that big win over Washington State last week, down 14-0. Jackson Darts comes in as the backup to Slovis. Now he's hurt. He's out for the year. 45-27 Oregon State. It seems like USC's defense has not been able to stop anybody on the running game, and Oregon State routed them up 45-27. Arizona State, even with all their controversies, 35-13 over Colorado. And Utah with a 24-13 win over Washington State. What a tough year it's been for Utah State based on everything that's gone on. And now you get this terrible news. I want to take it. Aaron Lowe, the 22-year-old junior for the University of Utah, was found dead. Gunshot wound Saturday night, Sunday morning around 1 o'clock Utah time. Very tragic news for the University of Utah program. Our condolences go out to his family. All right, we move on to the SEC here. Georgia continues to roll 62-0 over Vanderbilt. The LSU-Mississippi State game turned out to be a pretty good game. -1.5 for LSU. They hold off. They were up 21-10, and it ended up being 28-25. Missouri loses in OT to BC, as we said. Auburn was down to Georgia State for most of the game, but they end up coming back to win 34-24. Give Georgia State a lot of credit. Florida roughs up Tennessee. They were an 18-point favorite against Auburn, against Tennessee. They end up winning by 24, 38-14. And Kentucky's defense is very, very good. They pushed on a 16-10 6-point favorite against South Carolina. South Carolina's defense played well as well, too. But 16-10, the final score there. And then the big one, Arkansas in Jerry's world. His alma mater, the University of Arkansas, 4-point underdog over Texas A&M. They beat them outright. They upset them 20-10. They beat Texas A&M. They are a force to be reckoned with. They're going to be in the top 10 before too long because they're very good offensively and they're very good defensively. Their fourth straight double-digit game. All right, San Jose State lost to the Mountain West. Fresno State came back off their win from UCLA to beat UNLV. Boise State, their second straight, their win over Utah State. They'll probably win that. Wyoming was a 30-point favorite. They only win by 2 over UConn. Air Force 31-7. They win. Hawaii 41-21. UTEP 20-13. New Mexico was a 1-point favorite on the road there. And Western Michigan beats my alma mater 23-3. San Jose State could not get anything going. In the American Conference, before we close out, SMU upsets TCU. That's a big matchup in Texas, 42-34. Memphis blew a 17-point lead. Texas San Antonio comes back to beat them. Hello to our friend Stu Paul. He does their games for UTSA as well. Houston over Navy 28-20. BYU beats South Florida. And Cincinnati, the number 5 team in the country, is off this weekend. They'll come back and play a big game next weekend. We'll preview all of that on Thursday and Friday when we do our Friday football show, college football, NFL, Thursday night college football, Thursday night football as well, too. All right, picks. I'll have my picks, and I'll post the picks of Charlie O and Nick Robinson, our intern, at 6 o'clock Eastern as well. Tonight, I'm going to go with the underdog. The underdogs have been very good to me. 3.5 points. I'm going to take the Eagles. Plus 3.5 tonight. Seattle has beaten the Oakland A's 8 straight. They're going to put them out of their misery as far as the American League West goes and probably knock them down a peg. Chris Flexen, 13-6. They're at home, and the A's are favored. Actually, you know what? Let me check that here. I think that's wrong. I think the Mariners are favored. So while I've got the time here, let me check this out here. We're running on about a minute and a half left, so nothing like producing on the end here, as we say. Major League Baseball, let's go to the lines. Let's go to the board, as they say. Chris Flexen is 116, and the Mariners are favored by 116 and 8.5. So that's a typo on my part. I'm going with the Mariners at -116. In fact, I'm going to clear it up right now so that we take care of that as we go back to this board here. Give me a second to produce here. Doing it all at once. And there we go. All right. Back to picks. Philadelphia Eagles plus 3.5. Seattle Mariners behind 13-game winner Chris Flexen tonight have beaten the A's 8 straight. They just swept a 4-game series from Oakland in Oakland last week. They're going to continue that streak. They're going to try and make a push for that wild card, either both wild card spots. Remember, there's only a 1-game difference between the Yankees and the Red Sox. The Yankees have the 1-game lead. Boston has a 1-game lead over Toronto, 2 games over Seattle, and 3 games over Oakland. So the A's-Mariners series, a big series. Tomorrow, the Yankees, Blue Jays, the Red Sox, Orioles in the American League. That's the other series going on. Mariners, A's will continue. And in the National League, the Braves, Phillies for the National League East. And then St. Louis, 1 win away from clinching the second wild card spot as well. All right, we're here every week, Monday, Thursdays, and Fridays. We'll be back on Thursday at noon Eastern. Charlie O on assignment. Our intern, Nick Robinson, will join us on Friday. Thanks to everybody on Facebook, and thanks to Justin for following us. No faith in Oakland tonight, Justin. Sorry, buddy. Anyway, we'll see you on Thursday, noon Eastern. Thanks to everybody on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Vasi Vada Party, we are out for today. Good luck with your games.